Hello and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Westman. Today's episode, we're going to be chatting about an interesting topic. It's metabolism. Also, we have a very good bonus for you guys. It's Dr. Westman's free top 10 fat loss tips, and we'll put a link in the description for you guys. How are you doing, Eric?
Doing great. How are you, Glenn?
Very, very good. Thank you. Eric, in terms of metabolism, so how does this work? How does metabolism work in our bodies?
Yeah, well, it's a big term. It encompasses lots of different things. Um, but I think, the definition of metabolism is basically how your body runs, how like a car running, what machinery it uses, what fuel it uses. It's actually a very complicated sort of term because it encompasses so much. As an internal medicine specialist, now obesity medicine specialist, when I hear someone talk about metabolism or when I'm talking about it in the clinic, it really means your metabolic rate or I have a slow metabolism is what I hear very frequently. And that means your idle speed on your car is very low, so to speak. So I think of it as the metabolic rate, the metabolic speed is how fast your metabolism is going, which means how much energy it's consuming. And you may be surprised to know that just by sitting here, we're burning as much energy as a 100-watt light bulb. So if you can imagine, if you're around a light bulb, it heats the air, right? And that's why when you're in a room with 500 people, it warms up over time because we're all just sitting there burning fuel and generating heat. And that's part of the metabolism is the fuel you use, the heat you generate. But I think in my clinic and in my everyday use, it just means your metabolism means your metabolic rate or the speed of your metabolism.
Now, you often hear that leaner folks report that they have a fast metabolism, while folks carrying a little bit more body fat say that they have a slow metabolism. Can you elaborate on this, or is this different speeds of metabolism for different
Yeah,
folks?
absolutely. So it's more complicated than just the genes, the cards you're dealt. As you're born and then you grow. It's more complicated than that, but the genetics play a big factor. I mean, you may know in your family, there's one person that might not be able to go around running everywhere and have a, quote, high metabolism. In my family, yes, I have a brother. There are three boys, and one brother of mine was the natural exerciser. He would be running around all this, so there's it's not fully worked out, but the view that it is looking like is that if you're naturally able to burn sugar and burn fat off your body really well, you're going to have access to that energy, and you're going to be the genetic type, the metabolic type of someone who has a high metabolism, and meaning that you're able to access the fat store, the sugar store, even in times when you're not eating much or eating sugar, you can actually burn fat at the same time. So there are different metabolic types, which is metabolism means the speed and access to energy. The genetic types are such that you want to match the food and the diet, the lifestyle to the person. But when you think about it, Glenn, I know you a little bit, and you're a natural exerciser. You probably bounced around as a kid, and well, now as an adult. And there are other folks who naturally just didn't have the urge to go out and exercise. But so that's the genetic basis of it. But there's also an environmental basis, which is actually it's kind of easy to explain. Once you start developing extra fat weight on your body, the fat cells send out all these signals for you, the signals that make you hungry and make you want to exercise less. So actually, once you get into the vicious cycle, the spiral of gaining weight, all the fat cells want is more weight. And the way they get more weight is by telling you to exercise less and to eat more. So when I look at someone, the stereotypical couch potato, although when I was in Idaho, they didn't want me to say potato. So the couch cracker, it's a lazy person just watching TV. No, it's the weight, the extra weight and the fat cells and the signals that come from the fat cells that say, slow the metabolism. So just lie on the couch, you have no energy, and eat more so that you can feed the fat even more. So that there's the genetic tendency toward this, but also there's the environment that once you start gaining the weight tells you to exercise less and to eat more, and of course eat more carbs, so that the fat cell is almost like a cancer that wants to keep growing. And it sends out signals for you to be a couch potato or a couch cracker. And so it gets wrapped up in all sorts of emotional and judgmental things, right? You might get mad at your family member for just lying around and eating and watching TV or doing video games, when actually it's the food that leads to the weight gain, that leads to the behavior of just sitting around and eating more. So it's really not the individual, not a personality flaw or a character flaw. It's the food that generates the fat, that generates the behavior of just sitting around. And it, it all gets jumbled up into, you're just lazy and just exercise more. And no, so it's more complicated. And, I have to, in looking around, the people who don't have this metabolic issue of gaining weight are the ones that usually preach that you just need to exercise more and eat less. Well, it doesn't work for these other folks. It'd be like saying, you women just, do what men do. It's a different type of metabolism. So there's genetic differences and then environmental differences that lead to metabolic differences.
Now, when we talk about metabolism, we tend to just think about metabolism as one big group. But yet there are four different main players with regards to metabolism. We've got the liver, adrenals, the thyroid, and you've got the liver, the adrenals, the thyroid, and the pituitary gland. Are any of these particular key players with regards to weight gain or weight loss?
Absolutely. So the controllers of your metabolism, so kind of like the thermostat on the wall for how or the accelerator in the car of how fast your idle speed is carefully controlled by different hormones. That the most common one we think of is a thyroid problem. Of the thyroid is the major regulator of the metabolic rate, and there's some it's not all that common, but it's common enough that we check for it in a weight loss program like mine. We don't want to miss a thyroid level being off, but even then the blood levels aren't perfect. So that there was a transition some years ago from just asking people how they feel and using that as a guide for treatment to now you measure a blood test, and if the blood test is normal, but you feel like you're low thyroid, doctors don't do anything. So that's a matter for a whole nother class. But I would have to say it's uncommon in my office to pick up a low thyroid that another doctor hadn't picked up. So most doctors, internal medicine, family medicine, will check a thyroid level, but they won't do the further testing of, how are you feeling? And that's an important part. And then, of course, many of them don't tell you to cut the carbs out, which is a very effective way to fix the metabolism. So I don't typically check for anything beyond the thyroid levels. I found that even though the adrenals, the liver, the pituitary, hypothalamus are all involved, the diagnostic testing that we have available in the clinic is not perfect. And in fact, it can be misleading. So in my experience, just measuring the hormones, thyroid and insulin sometimes will tell me enough. But then if I'm going to be teaching you to do a low carb or a keto diet anyway, I don't need to measure these things because the metabolic change that happens when you do a low carb diet generally fixes all of these other things. So the hormonal situation that keeps the metabolism low is a result of what you're eating. So, you can measure these things and give supplements and all that, or you can just change what you're eating in a rational way. The method that we've used has been around 150 years, and this will be fixed. Even things that are sort of fad things to check and treat will improve or go away on its own when you just get the toxic food out of the mix.
I'm with you. And even when we speak about just the thyroid, that's quite a complicated topic on its own, because you've got T3, T4, you've got a whole bunch of different metrics that would need to be monitored within the thyroid. In fact, maybe we should even just do an episode later on just on thyroid. I think you could probably cover quite a lot of points on that.
Yeah, and that the medical world over the last 10, 15, 20 years since my training has made these shortcuts. And the shortcut meaning, let's just test one test, and it works almost as good as checking 3 tests. So it's called a screening type of testing, screening program. So the doctors who don't do this as a specialty will be taught to just check one thyroid test, the TSH, and say that it's good enough. Well, when you come to a specialist like me, I can't miss 1 in 100 abnormalities. I mean, so I will test more, and it's it's a normal process that the first tier you do a screening level, but then if you're going to see a specialist, they do tests in greater detail. But you might get the false reassurance from your primary care doctor because they're only checking one test, when checking all 3 or even 5 can give you make sure 100% you don't have that thyroid issue. But if you start a keto low carb diet and it's working, you're losing weight, the hunger is going down, your body inches are going down, you really don't need to worry about the thyroid level because what you're trying to achieve is getting better. So yeah, there's that screening issue of, it's good enough, when as a specialist, I need to know, 100%, or as best we can, 100% that you don't have a thyroid problem.
So I think we definitely need to do an episode on thyroid. But in the meantime, I've got a couple of questions. I've got a question from Darren, and Darren asks, if I have metabolic syndrome, does this have anything to do with my metabolism?
Yes. So the speed of metabolism and the blood products that are going around will all kind of hang together, so that if you have metabolic syndrome, which is the high triglyceride, low HDL, increased abdominal circumference, high blood pressure, but not necessarily treated for high blood pressure, high blood sugar, but not necessarily treated for high blood sugar, this is called the metabolic syndrome, and that your body is put it into a fat storage mode, and it's slowing the metabolism. So yeah, that if someone has metabolic syndrome, a slow metabolism, the low carb keto program is perfect for it. In fact, that's part of matching the dietary approach to the metabolic type. You want to match that.
Well, that leads on to the next question, because Marianne asks, I've been on keto for 6 months and I eat far less than I usually did before I was keto. Will this make my metabolism slow down? So she's obviously eating less.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear that. No. In fact, the suspicion has been that when you eat a keto diet, your metabolic rate goes up a little bit. And there are 2 major studies that are, it's like the one point of view is interpreting the data in one way, and the other point of view interpreting the data in the other way. The metabolic rate, as you're losing weight, is going to go down. That's a normal compensation, but it goes down less when you eat a keto diet. So I know there's a common urban myth out there that you have to eat to speed your metabolism. That's not true in the keto context. I've seen research for those who do eat carbs and push carbs as a way of improving health, and it may be true there, but it's not true on a keto diet. And I'm thinking through the kind of sticking points. We've measured not only blood sugars, we've measured blood ketone levels, and how does metabolism and genetics affect the ketones. And we found that if you have the history of, I've been heavy all my life, which means you've had a carb problem all your life. My mother put me on Weight Watchers when I was 10, years ago. Then you're going to be in this situation where if you have a little bit of carbs, it will affect your metabolism, the ketone metabolism, so that it can shut down ketosis for a week, maybe even more. I mean, we're just scratching the surface and studying these folks. So we typically teach that what you eat, the keto metabolism, you eat some sugar or too many vegetables, you might stop ketosis for 3 days. That's if you're otherwise healthy. What we're finding is that if you do have that slower metabolism genetically, that you might be knocked out of ketosis for a week or more, which, don't despair. What all that means is you just have to be really strict. I mean, so I've been pretty clear in my teaching that you have to follow this every day, 24 hours a day. It's not a pill you can just take here and there. And you wouldn't say, Doc, can I just take the pill every other day? No, the prescription is every day. But we're finding there are metabolic difference even in terms of the keto metabolism, not just the metabolic rate. This is all very complicated, but it's also very simple because the idea of just cutting carbs out will work across all these different metabolic types.
Last question I have is from Simon, and Simon asks, I don't have a thyroid gland. Will this affect me going keto?
Well, the thyroid problems can lead to either ablation, meaning you're sort of killing the thyroid cells, or removal of the thyroid itself. And in these cases, you're given a supplement, generally a prescription strength thyroid replacement. And there's a whole nother art to the use of these different medications. Some are just T4, some are T3, some are combinations, some are dried animal thyroid. So it has a combination of everything. So if you have no thyroid, the doctor should measure the thyroid level and then replace the thyroid if it's low. So the interesting thing is not if you had an operation that I don't know if you might have some thyroid remaining, making thyroid in your body. So it's the measurement of the blood test will tell you if you need thyroid replacement.
But is it okay to do a keto diet without a thyroid? Even if you're on those supplementations, is it still okay to do a keto diet?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's okay to do a keto diet if you're on thyroid replacement. Yes.
Wonderful. Eric, thank you for your expertise on this particular topic. I think that we need to revisit this topic and do more on the thyroid itself. That's it from us today. Don't forget about the bonus. It's Dr. Westman's free top 10 fat loss tips that we'll put a link in the description. And if you'd like to learn more about Adapt Your Life Academy and all the upcoming online courses we got coming on our way, you can find us at www.adaptyourlifeacademy.com. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to see future videos, you can always find us on our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts under the name of Adapt Your Life. Eric, once again, from all of us here, thank you so much. Very insightful episode this week, and we look forward to catching up with you again next week. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
If you like this video, you're going to love our Adapt Your Life Academy. So click on the link in the description to find out more.